Welcome to Looking Within, a podcast to help you quiet your mind, settle your body, and see God's presence in your everyday life. I'm Julie. I hope our time together will help you to feel more grounded, whole, and filled with a growing desire to be a conduit of God's love and presence to the world around you. Now, let's begin. Today we continue our Lenten series, Imagining a New Life and a New Story. During this season of Lent, we're paying close attention to the practices that formed Jesus' life, giving him a new story and a new life. On Monday, we considered the practice of self-inquiry. Our old story has worn out. We told the story of Oskar Schindler. Today, let's look at how Jesus made use of this same practice for a new life and a new story.
This might be a little challenging for us. Why would Jesus rethink his life? Unlike the rest of us, we would imagine Jesus knowing fully and completely what he was about from the very beginning and following through on that plan. No need for discarding an old life and an old story that wasn't working.
But if we look at the people of Jesus' day and the practices that they had before them, we see that Jesus' whole life and ministry was an attempt to give them a new vision about God. Jesus talked about his ministry in terms of new wine in new wineskins. What he was sharing with them was new, and the old containers no longer could hold this new wine. Their old lives had worn out. It was time for new lives.
As we see Jesus' interaction with the Pharisees, important religious leaders of his day, we clearly see this distinction between the old life that was worn out and wasn't working, and the new life that Jesus came to give us, a new life and a new story. In a word, the old story of the Pharisees was built on worthiness. The whole religious structure was established to decide who was worthy to be a friend of God and who wasn't. Everything Jesus taught, everything Jesus did, had this one inner message. The old system of worthiness wasn't working.
Jesus goes to the temple and turns over the tables of the money changers. God's house of prayer had become a den of thieves. Jesus hangs out with clearly unworthy people, tax collectors and sinners. Jesus forgives the woman caught in the act of adultery. Jesus points out the great faith of a Gentile, someone who wasn't doing any of the Jewish religious rules for worthiness. Worthiness wasn't working.
The parable of the prodigal son is probably Jesus' clearest teaching about the old life that is worn out. Both the prodigal son and his brother are living with the old life of worthiness. Neither can return to the Father and the banquet if worthiness is at the center of their relationship with their father. Many of us, when we hear this parable, often side with the older brother. We cry out, "It's not fair how the father acted towards the prodigal." That inclination on our part is based on the old system of worthiness. It is worn out. It doesn't work anymore. None of us can enter the banquet based on our own self-worth.
And of course, Jesus on the cross is God's last word about this worn-out life based on worthiness. Jesus dies between two very unworthy people. They are worthy of this horrible death. Jesus is not worthy of it. We can only understand Jesus there on the cross if we let go of worthiness and embrace love, the abundant love of God for us. This is the new story that Jesus tells on the cross.
The new life and the new story that Jesus offers us moves the center of our story away from us to the heart of God. We are the little children who have nothing but a loving parent. And in that parent's love, we have everything. This is our new story and our new life. God for me, God with me, God in me.
Now, this is nothing new. We've heard it many times. But practicing self-inquiry, we may see that we are still living in the old story of our own worthiness. We worry about what others might think of us. If people ever knew me, would they like me? But instead of worrying about our worth in the eyes of others, shouldn't we be spending our time loving others unconditionally as we have been loved by God?
We worry about having enough, whatever enough might mean to us. But instead of living in scarcity, some of us are worthy and will have enough, while others are unworthy and will not. Should we not be living in the abundance of God's love and the promise to provide for us always, and then share with others?
Or we live in the past, beating ourselves up for all the unworthy things we have done. Or we live in the future, fearful that we are not worthy of God's love and protection for all of our tomorrows, and therefore we can't be sure of our future. Should we not be living in the present moment, enjoying fully God's love and God's presence, period? Our new story and our new life are not about us, but about God. Let's think more about this during our quiet moments together. In this quiet space and time, I'd invite you to gently close your eyes and to take a few deep breaths in and out, in and out. Hear the sound of the bowl calling you to look within. Let it center you. Let it awaken you to God's presence. Step back from your life for a moment. What's at the center? Is it your own worthiness that drives your fears, worries, competitiveness? What would it be like to have a new life and a new story built on being God's beloved child? We'll be back with you in about 2 minutes. take one more minute to picture yourself as that little child totally loved by Jesus. No thoughts at all of worthiness. I'd invite you now to take a few deep breaths in and out. In and out. Hear the bowl sound calling you back to this day. Gently open your eyes, remaining still for a moment longer. As we have traveled together this Lenten season, the need of a new life and a new story might have escaped us. Most of us might be thinking, my life is just fine. But with a little self-inquiry, we may see how much we still are driven by unworthiness, our fears of what others might think of us, our uncertainty of God's love and protection, our lack of joy in this moment. These all suggest the need to let go of an old, worn-out life built on worthiness. We have important work yet to do this Lenten season.
On Friday, in a second bonus episode this week, we'll lead you in a guided meditation. As you take some moments to rest your mind and your heart, you can open up to the wisdom of letting go of an old life built on worthiness and entering more fully into that life of a little child completely loved by God.
Thank you for making time for your inner self today, for developing and enriching your relationship with God through reflection and discovery. Whatever you've experienced, carry that with you in the coming days. You can find more episodes at our website, Gloria-Dei, that's DEI.com/lookingwithinpodcast, or subscribe through your favorite podcast app. If you know someone who might enjoy and benefit from this podcast, share it with them. Your financial contributions make this ministry possible. To give, visit Gloria-Dei.com/giving. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next time.